not going solar or whether for your home. Well, before you get
Here, hello everybody. Good morning. Good morning, Trail Dust and Kevin and Robert and Paul and other Robert and Eric and Shane Laloon and Mick Chu. How you doing, man? Paul Orchard, what's up? Is Sully giving the sermon today? I think so. Bortagov, Dana, Donut, Bloobs. How y'all doing, everybody? Alright. Getting to my screens and info, and there we go. Now I can see things. How's everybody doing this wonderful morning? Stretchy. But, Henry, St. Street Forge, good morning. Trail Dust has to deal with extreme close-ups of Yamez, so he's got me on the big screen. And everybody knows that his big screen, he's got, if you hadn't known already, he's got a 275-inch TV that he watches me on. He got it specifically for watching me, because he wants to see me, like, up my nose. Sully! Devi Theater, good morning.
Good morning, Devi.
Good morning, Robert. Oh, that's the Devi?
That's the Devi.
Hi, Devi. How you doing? Any friend of Sully's is a friend of mine. Can't stay long. Got food poisoning on Friday. Still feel like, man, Dana, big hug, man. I'm sorry. Sam Towns, howdy.
That's tough.
I think we finally found a metal topic that will not interest Sam at all.
Yeah, no, Sam is gonna have no interest in copper.
Pay attention, Sam. You might learn something. No, I'm just kidding. Oh, I'm so horrible. I've got this horrible.
Oh, what do you got there, Sam? Like midnight or something like that?
Dang near, right? Pushing. Josh, how you doing? Good morning. Can't stay long. Heading to worship service. Yep. Good of you to stop in and say hi. Sophie Austin. Vasov.tech. Be gone, Prostabat.
So I just like to point out that I was really slacking this week on my research, and I mean I did like one little bit, and last night I was like, oh my gosh, I completely spaced this up. I can't believe tomorrow's Sunday already. And Debbie really helped me out and sent me some links and whatever, and kind of kickstarted my research 10 hours ago.
Yeah.
For today's show, and actually learned something I did not know. So thank you, Debbie. I do appreciate it.
Thank you, Debbie.
Who else we got in here? James, Sprinkle Donut Forge. How you doing this morning? Long time no chit chat, buddy.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just adjusting my colors. I realize I'm whitewashed out here, over here. But if I drop that shade, give me a second.
Yeah, 11 p.m. in Australia. That's not too awful bad.
I can drop just one of the shades. Use sort of a filter. I can't believe I didn't notice that. The sun must have moved. The sun's not supposed to move. It's supposed to stay in one spot.
Right.
That gives a little less glow,
Yeah,
more shadow than I'd like.
we're so out
What
of
are you
sorts.
gonna do?
We needed like 30 more minutes to put this together correctly. So well, okay. Maybe Yamez isn't struggling, but I'm struggling to get it all going this morning.
Oh, I'm struggling. Look at me now. I'm all dark-faced. Shadow, just nothing but shadow.
I was just about to do something, and I was like, "How long do we have?" And Yamez is like, "Oh, we got 30 seconds." I was like, "Oh crap." Yep. Okay, that's out then. So,
Close.
it's amazing
Okay,
how
that's
time
better.
flies when you're waiting on a slow ass laptop to load up, and you're like, oh, I can get this done before we go live. Nope, I can't. Okay.
I hear you, man. It's like, especially doing the live stream last night, it was like, I'm not used to doing a live stream and then jumping into church the next morning. It's been about a couple months since I switched. Thank you, Devi. You talking to me? No, probably not. Uh, let me see. So, pumpkin hour was an hour ago. So, how's everybody been doing? Before we jump into this, is kind of a surprisingly large topic for Metal of the Week. Just a preamble to it before we kind of go into it later is there's a lot more to copper than you thought. Unless you already know, then, shh, don't tell anybody. uh, but, yeah, so, did a live stream last night. Yes, I did do a live stream last night. Absolutely there, Silbert. Enjoyed watching you guys drink beer and Forge Weld game, Daddy. Yeah, that's about what it was. They actually gave me that piece to take home, and it's like I'm going to hang it up above the forge. It was kind of cool. But, just added Perth to the world clock on my phone. Alright. So, that's kind of what I've been up to is, this past week has been leading up to last night's live stream, gathering stuff to get up there and go do that and chit-chatting with them. And it's just something that we enjoy getting together and do, to do. They come down and hang out at the shop every now and then when there's a guild meeting down in Manio, and I can't make it because, I'm doing this when the meeting's going on. And they usually come by after the meetings, and we kind of just hang out in my shop. But yeah, they live about an hour and a half up north, and it's like, so venture up there and set up a live stream with them. A lot of fun. But
Yeah, I'm kind of sad that I only got to catch like half an hour of it last night. Of course, I never. It just kind of caught me by surprise. I was like, "Oh, look, Yamas is live," and then
right, yeah. I didn't. It's my fault. I didn't. My only promotion for it was last Wednesday, going, "Hey guys, yeah, this Saturday I'm going to be going live." And that was all I said. So, to the 20 people that heard me say that, yeah. I also, side note, I had to edit a 1-minute clip to send to a special friend for a special event that this person is doing.
Hey, Yamas,
Yes?
continue on. I'm going to step out for about 3 to 5 minutes. I will be right back. I got to get this done. I'll be right back.
Heard bird. Yeah, and using my laptop to edit, holy cow, it struggled a bit. My editing software crashed 4 times on me. I've got to play with some settings and everything just to, basically, if I were to say I'm going to jump back into editing videos right now, I'd have trouble. Morning, Rob. Yes, if you haven't smooshed that like button, well, smoosh that like button. But yes. So that's kind of what I've been up to. J-Rod gave me some good news this morning. I believe he's finished with his CAD courses, if that's right.
That is right.
Yeah.
I am 100% finished, done, in the books, finished with a perfect GPA. Entire program, but every course was an A, so I'm really happy about that.
There you go. That's awesome. And what's up? Good morning, Ben. Yeah, like I told you though, it's awesome that when at a point in your life you take the initial steps to improve it, and then once you reach the culmination of those steps, the next big milestone for you is applying that to your life. You know, either by getting a job that involves it or using it to go the next step. So I'm excited to see how that goes for you. But that's really cool.
Yeah, I'll be more than happy to share of what I've been, obviously, for the NDA and what the company allows, but what if I can share, I'll most definitely share so everybody can know what I've been up to.
Yeah, absolutely. I forgot. I told Sully that I was going to talk to Roy and see if I can convince him to join us in the chat this morning. And I talked to him last night or yesterday morning and completely forgot to invite him. But he just sent a message. It looks like he's actively working on a copper bowl like right now. So
All right, I'm back.
yeah. So yeah, coincidentally,
What did I miss?
Roy is, I think, actively right now working on a copper bowl. He sent a picture of him working on it. It says, "Copper, you say?"
So he's not going to make the invitation then?
Unless that's an old picture and he's sitting on his couch, like his kids say he does.
Right.
You know.
He's not actually working. He's sitting on the couch watching you guys on the TV and posting pictures to make it look like he's working.
Yeah. He's what he do.
Oh yeah, I see that. I don't know if I missed it, but yeah, I like that smoosh button and smoosh that like button, y'all.
Yeah. I even have a little icon for that. Look, it's so tiny. It's so tiny up there because this screen is so crowded with all of this. You know, they're gonna put it way up here. Yeah, I tell you, and what a nice segue into copper is Roy popping in with his Roy.
Did he drop that in the Discord chat there?
Yeah. He goes,
Oh yeah.
okay, so
And of course, my laptop is disconnected, and so I lost the YouTube chat and I lost the Discord chat.
well, Roy did just pop in the Discord or YouTube chat, and he's not actually working. He says he's laying in bed naked. Well, he didn't specify in bed, so it's
okay.
very possible that he's curled up with Olga. Yeah, I forgot to mention Roy when we were chit chatting yesterday, because I was trying to keep it brief. That we were doing copper today, and you being the king of copper, are more than welcome to hop in the chat and discuss it with Sully, who did all this amazing research with the help of.
Oh yeah, all of this amazing research.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got nothing. But I don't got nothing. But so should we pop off right into it?
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Yeah,
a great
let's
segue.
do it. All right, Metal of the Week.
And
Okay, yeah.
I will
that's our lame ass intro.
I'm gonna have to do something.
I'm telling you, one of these days I'm gonna convince somebody to record us an intro for Metal of the Week, and they're gonna send it to you.
Rob Huff.
We really need to get Rob Huff on that. I mean,
who better than to have Rob Huff and Devil to Pay
I know,
to
right?
record us a like 7, 10 second, 30-second little clip of some, shredding and, get him Medal of the Week or something like that.
Yeah, I mean,
I'll even buy
well,
it.
it would help if Rob was in the chat and he could hear us say that, but whatever.
I do know that he popped in, but I don't know if he's still here. But anyway, we digress.
We digress. So yeah, the metal of the week this week is copper, and copper is a very interesting element. Element number 29. It is also the oldest metal known to man. We started working copper around about 8,000 BC, so 10,000 years ago. It's one of the few metals that is found in nature in its usable metallic form, meaning you can just pick up a piece of copper, go, and then shape it into what you need and go from there. It's of course everybody knows it's got great thermal and electrical conductive properties. That's why it's used in copper wire. For electrical conductivity, it's why it's used as the base metal in computers and whatever, which are then coated with a layer of gold usually, occasionally platinum, occasionally silver. But copper is also the first metal to be alloyed, which was around 5,500 BC, which was alloyed with tin to create, what is it?
Bronze.
Bronze, yeah.
Interesting fact.
That's a metal for another day, but
while you're at this point in history, interesting fact that I actually learned today, because I love copper, so I did a little bit of research pre-show. Everybody assumes or thinks or randomly attributes the different ages. It goes Stone Age, Bronze Age, Iron Age, blah blah blah. There was a period that was called the Copper Age, but like on a scale, it was so small. It was from 8,000 BC to 5,500 BC.
Well, that's not really small though. You're talking about what's that? 35 for 2,500 years. That's 2.5 millennia. That's
yes, but in the span of the ages. In the geological sense of the ages, the Stone Age, lasted how long compared to the Bronze Age, which lasted how long?
Well, right, yeah. The Stone Age, Stone Age would have been about 10 millennia, but
yeah, and the so when you look at the different ages on a time scale, it's like you got dealing with small. You got the Stone Age, Copper Age, Bronze Age. It's a fraction of the time, and so people often forget that there was a period before the Bronze Age that we had metal working capabilities, which led to, they very quickly, relatively speaking, found alloying copper with tin and various other things to create bronze.
Right.
So anyway,
and for the first 2,000 years of copper being the only metal known to man and the only usable metal being known, for the most part, being widely used. For the first 2,000 years, it was just native copper that was, and primarily mined in Cyprus. That was that's actually kind of where the root of the name comes from, is because that's where they found it at. And so for 2,000 years, that was the only way to get it. And then around 5,000, 7,000 years maybe.
Yeah.
So it was the first metal to be smelted from sulfide ores, meaning you can't really see it. It's there, but it's not just the usable metal form, which is interesting because I understand how that goes because I smelt gold, silver, and stuff out of sulfide ores myself, sulfides and tellurides. And that's a whole nother animal. But I did not know that copper was one of those. I knew I could get copper out of my sulfides, but it's for my intents and purposes, it's an unwanted byproduct. In their cases, that was the
goal.
main.
The end.
That
the
was
end
the goal,
goal.
right? And it was shortly followed up with gold and silver being smelted out after that. And so copper came first, and then tin, zinc, and gold and silver. So
Yeah, and you almost imagine some accidental Stone Age or Copper Age lab where they're working on extracting some copper and making some copper, and they've got it all molten, and they go, oh yeah, this works, I can pour this, oops, I dropped some tin in there, well, let's see what happens, and they came up with the bronze. Like,
right.
who thinks of that?
I can totally see me doing that back in the Stone Age, and you get that classic cartoon where you drop something into the mixture, and then it goes poof, and it blows up in your face and blows your hair back.
Yes. But yeah, that's touching into bronze a bit, and we'll go over that another time. But yeah, that I can't stop with the joke.
Yeah, I know, right? So and copper, unlike forging steel, copper isn't really forged hot. You bring it up to red, and you quench it off, and that's what softens it. And you work it cold, which is kind of counterintuitive when all you've ever worked are iron-based metals. And so copper work hardens as you hammer it. It gets a little bit harder, and you got to heat it up again, quench it off, and then there you go. That's kind of the forging process. What I didn't know until this morning was that you could forge weld copper. That just kind of blew my mind. And I read over the process, and well, heck, the process is just like forge welding steel, except flux is a necessary component for forge welding copper, because any oxidation on the copper is going to severely inhibit the ability to weld. But it's basically the same thing. Get it, hold on, cough button. Get it hot and flux it and tappity tap with a hammer, and it should stick. And of course now I'm gonna have to try that.
Right. Right, but you got to get actual copper, not the copper plated stuff.
Well, yes, of course.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that goes without saying. What I'll probably do is cast a couple bars and go from there.
Makes me kind of want to take a chunk of copper wiring, some stranded copper, and heat it up, and then tippity tap it into submission.
Oh, you know what? Kind of like cables. That's not a bad. That's not a bad. Just strip off some stranded wire, warm it up, throw
Make
some
a bundle
flux on it, warm it up again, and see if you can consolidate it.
Yeah, make a nice bundle. Even take. I could even take. There's a technique for making lightning rod cable, which I think takes 8 strands of 12 gauge wire, or 8 bundle. You take 2 strands, twist them tight. You split, you twist them, and then you take those 8 and you twist them, and it makes like this braided cable that is used for a lightning rod conductor. And I bet it's a really cool design. I bet taking that and then doing your forge weld with that, you'd get a pretty cool. If there's any, I don't know if there would be any pattern in doing that, but it'd be neat to find. Yes, you guys are right. You can work copper hot. I often work copper hot when I'm working copper. I just find it moves a little bit easier.
I have never. I mean, I don't. I've never really dealt with copper in that respect. All I've ever done is cast it and do a little bit of shaping. Because like somebody had requested some 3/8 copper bar stock, and so I made them some 3/8 copper bar stock, because it's not something you don't really come across 3/8 copper square, and so I made some for somebody, and that's really the only work I've ever really done with copper that's not just like using a piece of wire for a pin or a rivet or something. And so I mean, I gotta while I find it fascinating, I haven't done much work with it at all.
Right.
And so
it's fun.
I don't have a working knowledge of copper. I only have a research knowledge. You know what I mean? I have a reading knowledge of copper, not a practical. So I'm gonna have to work on that. And you know, I mean, we were talking earlier in the week, and we came up with some really great video ideas that I don't really want to get into until they happen, because it's gonna be epic, you guys. I mean,
Yeah.
we're gonna do some really neat stuff over the next 6 months or so. Gonna be just off the wall, blow your mind.
Yeah.
But in addition to that, I think I ought to throw some a little bit of copper experiments in there, other than the let me throw some copper in my forge and see if I can forge weld metal or forge weld steel, and then no, it doesn't happen. Now, you know, like I prefaced one other time, I'm not saying it can't be done. I'm saying in that respect, I was unable to make a forge weld happen with a piece of copper in my forge. No matter what I tried, I could not get it to stick. Doesn't mean it can't be done. It just means I couldn't do it.
Right.
And so, you know, there's some other experiments I'd like to do with copper in that respect. Like, I didn't know you could forge weld copper. I'm gonna have to try that.
Right. I think the reason Roy's quiet right now is you said that, and he's like, really? you might have learned Roy something there.
Oh, I doubt that.
Good morning, Curtis. Let me see. Donut says
that'd be like Sam learning something from me. That's just not going to happen.
Not going to happen.
Yeah, more than likely they're yelling at the computer screen, going, "No, you're wrong. You're wrong."
Right. Donut said something, and this is, you know, I've done this before, and it looks amazing, and I know other people have, but it's a little trick that to make a little detail pop using, you know, like 6-gauge solid wire as a rivet in your metalworking, and it makes the pieces pop, and it's an easy way to do a cold rivet. So if you're doing something non-structural, copper rivets are amazing in making a piece kind of go from, you know, oh, that's cool, to, oh my goodness.
Hey, when Hans did his headdress, did he use copper rivets, or was that steel?
I believe he used a mixture. I'd have to look at it again, but I do believe he did put copper pieces or copper rivets somewhere in it. I'd have to pull it up and find it. But yeah, I've, as Robert says, I have worked with miles and miles of copper. Saying miles and miles would be underselling it. You know, when you figure a household has approximately a mile of wiring in it, if not more, and then how many households I've done, and then plus that, how many times. Yeah, I've worked with a lot of copper.
Yeah, and I just got my YouTube chat back. So if I missed anybody hollering at me in the last 10 minutes, it just now came back up. But yeah, Paul, that meter of 6-inch. Boy, it's just weird seeing a metric and a imperial in the same sentence. Something you can do with that is just like cut a section off and then slice it down the side and then flatten it out, and you got copper plate. You can make bowls and whatnot out of it, and that's what I mean. I've got a section that I got from Hans. It's I think it's 4-inch that I've got.
Yeah,
and I got about 2 foot of it, and that's the plan. There is to just make little pieces of plate out of it and try to make some bowls and other little, you know, things out of it like that.
I believe it unrolls to about a 14-inch plate, because I remember
the whole thing?
The 4-inch, when you split it, it unrolls to be about 14 inches, roughly. You know, 13 to 14 inches. I remember because I had an idea that I needed about 16 inches of copper plate, 16 inches long by 2 inches wide, and I had took a look at the 4-inch, and it was just too short for what I needed to do. So, but bringing up that, it's a nice, interesting segue too with copper. We were talking how much copper wiring I use, and then we brought in pipe, which brings up not all copper is created equal.
That's right. You don't really think about it, but you think, well, I mean, in the blacksmithing, where you think about copper's copper. Well, no, it's not. I mean, there are so many different alloys. It's kind of like steel. There are so many different alloys because varying the percentages of the alloying compounds just a little bit can have just drastic effects on the properties of the copper. I mean, take for instance, I mean, everybody knows about it, or you should, that in plumbing pipe, you got like kind of like two grades of copper. They call it soft copper and hard copper. Well, you can get 20-foot stick of hard copper, and you're not gonna curve that. You're not gonna bend it. If you try to bend it, it's gonna fold and crease. Whereas you can get a 20 foot of soft copper, and you can curl that stuff up into a 6-inch coil, or like what do you call it, like a worm thing for a still or something. I mean, you can coil that stuff up pretty tight without crushing it. So it's a much more malleable form of copper, and it's a lot softer. I mean, well, that's why it's called soft copper. But but by the same account, those are both different alloys than wire.
Yeah.
And stranded wire is a different alloy than solid core wire. I mean, so every use, about the only place you're going to find pure unalloyed copper is in computer chips and computer parts. They're gonna be unalloyed pure copper underneath with the gold plating on top.
We hear you, Roy. Sorry.
So that's we hear you, Roy. What?
Sorry, Roy just popped in to tell us we're all wrong.
Oh, we're all wrong. We don't know anything about copper. We're just guessing.
Sorry, I had to introduce Roy because I saw him pop in. But yeah, no, it's amazing that there's multiple, like with the different alloys, just like you said, the minuscule changes in the alloying, you achieve different things, and all can be kind of worked. Let's hear what the Copper King himself has to say.
Well, first off, I got a warning. My first warning.
I know,
on
I
this
saw
one.
that.
Too many emojis.
It's an
Bad,
auto.
Santa, bad.
It's an auto warning. Emoji spamming. Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm bad for that, ain't I? Life's so much more fun with speaking with emojis.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, anyways, well, good morning, gentlemen and ladies.
Good morning, Roy.
Good morning, Roy.
It's good to have you all here. So, yeah, no, I don't have. I mean, I don't have a whole lot to add about working with copper. Sounds like you guys got, the gist of it, except for maybe some of the more of the finer points about working with copper, hot versus cold.
Yeah.
And and how copper is really temperamental when it comes to forging progression. So, you can develop cold shuts or hot shuts in it a lot quicker than you do with steel and not even know that you've done it. Similar like with working with like sterling silvers or things like that, you can develop small cracks in the piece that you don't even notice just purely by poor hammer work in general. So,
not knowing when to stop and anneal and such.
Yeah, exactly. Well, just even miss hammer blows.
Right.
Because the material is so soft, you can fold surface material over. Like when you're doing, just like in steel, when you're hammering lightly on the surface to kind of planish the surface out. Copper works the same way. When it starts to work harden up, the core can get harder than what the surface can, and that can cause an overlap, if you will. Where the surface material and grain structure starts to run before the center material does, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then that can lead to an actual crack or a failure later down the road.
I haven't experienced a crack in, like I've done a handful of copper bowls. I've yet to really experience a crack or anything like that. However, I haven't worked as extensively with it or pushed it to its limits as you have. And But yeah, one thing that I think everybody's the burning question with this new knowledge today is: have you ever tried forge welding copper?
I have, quite unsuccessfully. The only time I've ever been able to get copper to weld is technically with Mokme Gane,
Right,
and so it had another element in it.
right.
And that's not technically welding. That's more like brazing,
Yeah,
because you're using
Fire
the
brazing.
nickel.
instead of fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, the nickel is what's joining the copper together.
Yeah,
Yeah, the nickel runs. It has a lower melting point
yeah.
than the copper does, and so yeah, you're not technically fusing it back to itself. I've tried on fairly thick stock before. I've tried on thin stock, and about the time you get it to the point where the surfaces would start sticking to one another, the copper crumbles.
Hmm.
So it's either a puddle or it's a crumble situation when you bring it out.
So there's got to be quite a bit of control in order to do it. Like you got to be
Yeah,
like pretty.
My guess is it would have to be heat and pressure all in one spot. So it's not something that you could pull from the forge and just smack together like you would do a
Similar
regular
to-
weld. So,
You think similar to like making a makame where you put it in the vise and squeeze on it while you're heating it?
yeah, something like that. Also, you said earlier there, Sully, about the needing flux in that operation, and you're absolutely correct. You have to have that flux to clean the surface oxides away. With copper, it's really
just
really
like when you're
finicky.
soldering. Yeah, just like when you're soldering copper pipe for the plumbing aspect, you can make it all nice and shiny, and then try to with the wire brush, and if you don't use flux, the solder's not going to stick. I mean, it'll just bead up and run right off of it. So even in the soldering aspect or brazing, flux is absolutely necessary to get it to stick. So, and the website that I was reading did say flux was absolutely necessary to forge weld it, and so I'm I'm glad you agree, because I'd be like, well,
Yeah.
she said you don't need to use the F word. Well, okay, let me try.
With that, I'd like to. The comedian in me wants to step back a minute. I wish I had an instant replay button, and slow mo it down. You heard it here first. You heard it here first. Roy has officially said you absolutely need to use flux. End quote.
Yeah, I'm seeing the YouTube chat too. Yeah, you all are a bunch of regulars.
We're definitely gonna have to pull that audio clip there, Yamez.
Oh yes.
No.
Sorry.
Yeah,
back to science.
Another way you could probably weld copper together is if you had, say, an induction wand from an induction forge, and then you put it under, say, like a press or in the vise or something. A way that you could get all the way around. Say if you had a stack of copper you're trying to weld up, you could put your coil around that and then use the press to make the initial weld once it's up to heat.
Right. See, this isn't boding
that
well
would be another
for.
way.
This isn't boding well for future thoughts I have. Because when I heard you could forge weld flux, that makes me think that possibly with an oxyacetylene torch, much like I attached the tentacles to the jellyfish bodies, that I could possibly take a bundle of wire and heat up both sides and boom, have a puddled weld, puddle weld it. If that's not a term, it is now. But, I guess not. So,
Turning things into a puddle, sure, why not?
I suppose the oxygen in the oxyacetylene would actually inhibit the weld. So, yeah, that's sad for me. Do oxyacetylene and map gas. But
Ben Toombs, Roy's on drugs. Test him. He might have been drinking this morning. We're not sure.
he does do a full month of celebrating Christmas, and so we might be hitting the nog a little early. Speaking of which, while I have you here, if I could take a quick break of the copper, because I do love the topic, and we will probably continue the stream with it. You have your annual Blacksmiths Christmas party coming up this upcoming Friday, I believe. And
Yes, I do.
You're going to be giving away a few trinkets, including
just a few trivial things.
Yeah, just a few little trivial things. And the big one is
On a
going to
weekday,
be,
of course.
huh? But yeah, and I'm sure everybody is super psyched for that. Yeah, and you're even giving away the all-important and much-needed in a blacksmith's arsenal, a bottle of Iron Mountain Flux. But yeah, so
everybody's gonna fixate on that.
Yes, we are.
That's the main item. Everybody wants to receive Flux from Roy.
And
That's right.
That's what it is.
Let me tell you this, Roy.
and we wouldn't even use it. It'd just be like, yeah, I got this bottle of Iron Mountain from Roy like 5 years ago. Still haven't opened it.
What you need to do, and this is just, my humble entertainer's opinion, you need to write like, do not use, signed Roy Adams. And then, like, have it be a signed bottle of Flux.
Or for emergency use only, or in case of emergency, put it in one of them in a shadow box in case of emergency, break glass.
Yeah, I absolutely.
Maybe I can
think
sign it on the stream.
Yes, you should sign it on the stream. You definitely should. I think that will make that individual piece a lot more precious than some 142-pound swedge block. I'd rather have a signed bottle of Flux, I'll tell you what. Not knocking Holland Anvil's hearts.
I'm really tempted to dump all the Flux out and just put something in it like powdered sugar or something.
Eric says, Roy, the year of the Flux is coming sooner or later.
Not on my watch, Eric. Not on my watch.
All right. But no, as you heard here, Flux is absolutely necessary. End quote.
No, you better extend that quote there, young man.
No caveats. No caveats. Just a statement out of context can be taken to mean whatever we want it to mean.
But yeah,
there you go. Just run with it. Just run with it.
With that, talking about brazing copper and such and whatnot, you had earlier in the year you had a mess up with a copper basin that you were doing for a baptismal basin. I have words, and you created a whole bunch of cracks in it, and you said that you were going to fill those with you said something, tin, I think. Have you done that, and has it turned out all right at all? Or
well, great question. No, I haven't.
Why not?
The bowl's like any other of my some of my projects that I get into or get off of for a little bit. It sits on a shelf and it waits for years for me to come back around to it. So, I don't know what I'll do with that just yet. I was going to end up, basically trying to carve into it and putting some silver solder down in the grooves, if you will. And I've done that in the past on a smaller scale, and it worked.
Right.
For but it was purely a surface decoration. So, I was just, basically I was just carving lines into it and then put the silver solder in there and then ground out what was on top and the grooves filled with the solder.
Cool.
If that makes sense. Just like as if you were trying to make a weld joint or whatever.
Right.
They actually filled out the joint. And then
Now-
I mean, it looked pretty cool, but that's the last time I ever did anything with that. So I don't know how it'll work on such a big piece, because
Now-
the copper is a good conductor of heat energy, but it's also a great conductor of heat energy away
It's a
on
heat
large
sink.
scale pieces like that. So it sucks the heat out of the joint
Now, Roy,
really quick.
You say silver solder. Are you talking about the like 5 to 15% stuff that's kind of soft and comes on a roll, or are you talking about the 70% stuff that's on a stick?
The stick.
Okay.
Yeah, I should clarify, shouldn't I?
Having been a plumber,
Stuff
I mean,
that comes from
they're
it,
both
yeah.
considered silver solder, but
Mhm.
oh man, that's the stuff that's on a stick. That stuff is can be difficult.
Yeah.
Anything like 4 inch and above has to be done with the stick, and I've been talking about pipe, and
Mhm.
it's just, I mean, you're just real close to getting it too hot and burning the copper, trying to get that silver to run in there, but.
Yeah. Yep.
Rob,
yeah,
you're
I've
gonna bust a melon here.
back years ago when I did heating and air conditioning, I worked with pipe fitters for a while, and plumbing department, and so I got to get really good at that, using the stick on that. But you're right, like it takes it to the max before it flows.
So, before my random joke, you had mentioned that there's the difference between forging hot copper and cold copper and such. I can't remember if you went into that or if I interrupted with a joke.
Oh yeah.
But
No, I didn't really get into that.
Using the information that Sully had brought up about the different alloys and such,
Mhm.
and whatnot, soft copper, hard copper, wire copper, gold-plated copper, etc., yada yada, in the different instances. I know you primarily work with copper sheet. You get these, you have them deep pockets that allow you to have, probably 10,000 pounds of, copper plate. But yeah, the copper plate that you have, is that primarily a hard copper, like a more stiffer, and going more into working the different coppers, at heat, or specifically working them cold and annealing them?
Yeah. So the copper, the copper that I get, I'm not sure that. I believe, if I remember correctly, the designator on it was a C103 copper, and that's purely an arbitrary number. I think that's just their catalog number.
Sure.
That I was purchasing it from Alway steel. So I'm not sure on that. As far as it being sheet copper, since it's already in a sheet, I know that it's a malleable copper. So that means it has been alloyed with other things. Now, I'm not big on the metallurgy side of stuff, just because I just don't care. I'm a blacksmith,
Yeah.
not a metallurgist. So the copper itself, in the form of a sheet, is going to be a malleable copper. Now, they come out in different hardness levels, and those hardness levels are work hardening for the most part.
Right.
There is where they add different alloys in it, and it makes it stiffer or tougher to work, but I'm not sure what those are. I do know that you can get pre-annealed copper sheet, so everything's annealed right off the jump, and you're working with soft polished copper
Yeah.
right out the gate. Most of the stuff I get with the copper plate, it's not pre-annealed. That's extra coin if you want to pay for that to have it pre-annealed.
Right.
But it's work hardened through rollers,
Yeah.
because it's been rolled and stretched and pulled, and by the time it's done, it sounds like a cymbal or a bell when you get it.
I'd like to point out right quick, Sprinkled Donut Forge said, could you theoretically put copper filings in anhydrous borax as a homespun copper flux? I would assume so, because Iron Mountain makes Red Mountain. It's Red Mountain flux, which is for forge welding. Well, I guess it's for forge welding, but it's for copper. But it is basically the same thing as the Iron Mountain, but it's for copper, and it's got copper in it. And I didn't know which one was which when I went to the Blacksmith supply place up in Amarillo last time. And I just grabbed one of those, and the guy's like, "Are you sure you want that? That's for copper." And I was like, "Oh, no, that's not what I want." But yeah, it's got copper in it, and that jar that bought me same size bottle, and that sucker was heavy.
Right. But yeah, so yeah, like, and that's the thing, you, a lot of brain. You know, Alex pointed out the Red Mountain, Iron Mountain, all that stuff, and Roy.
Well, and you know, it did not occur to me that, I mean, like, I didn't know until this morning that you could forge weld copper, but I sat there at the Blacksmith Supply holding a can of Red Mountain Flux.
Yeah.
And the guy said, "Oh, that's for copper." And the idea that was for forge welding copper never even crossed my mind.
The signs were there. Nobody paid attention.
No, exactly.
But yeah, so I was gonna say to Roy, spending the extra coin for an annealed plate, when all you got to do is kind of cut it, toss it in the fire, and anneal it yourself. You know, unless you're working on something massive that you need a 4x8 sheet of annealed copper, you know, that you can't, unless you're going to sit there with a torch and just splash a bucket of water, you know. It's like, yeah, I could absolutely see, you know, why spend the extra coin, you know. Khajiit has your wares, or has wares for sale.
Yeah, so the pre-annealed stuff, a lot of people will buy that, or companies will buy that when they're going to process it into, say, like copper gutters, or they're going to run strips of it off for, you know, the strapping and stuff. That's mainly around like the copper roofing industry,
Sure.
if you will. So they pay the extra amount because they're not going to get torches out. They're not going to, you know, anneal it and then polish it again, right? They need a finished product right off the bat. Same thing with like spun, for spinning copper, right? For metal spinners, they like purchasing the pre-annealed because, again, they don't have to anneal. They go straight to, after their CNC laser cuts it all out.
Yeah.
They just throw it on the spinner and spin it into lampshades or whatever they're making, pots, pans, whatever they're making from it. So that has its use there, but you're going to pay a premium for it.
Yeah.
As where with what I do, I'm going to be doing a lot of manipulation to the copper later. So I'm going to have several annealing cycles. So I'm just spending an extra, you know, $1, sometimes $1.50 a pound on something I don't need.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, that's kind of like buying steel. You go to the steel supplier and they say hot roll or cold roll, and I'm like, I don't really care. I'm going to get it hot anyways.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just whatever's cheaper.
Hey, Aaron,
Yeah,
Bill,
and that's generally going to be hot rolled, but not always. Sometimes cold rolled
Steve.
is what they got, and it's cheaper.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. I noticed that too with the steel supply over in Elizabeth City. It's like, you know, sometimes they have cold rolled, sometimes they have hot rolled. They don't particularly charge a difference, you know. It's because it's what they can get, you know. It's what they get, and when you're buying it from them, unless you're buying it in bulk and having them order it, you know, they'll just sell you what they have on the rack, you know. And yeah. So.
So to get back on real quick, just to make mention of the point that I originally pointed out about the difference of working hot versus cold.
Yes.
I wanted to just throw that out there. So copper, it's true. Yes, you can just basically work copper cold. You can work that all the time cold if you like, but you can also work it hot. But the main thing that happens when you work it hot, just like talking about how copper, when you're working it and you start work hardening it, the surface material can move quicker than the center material, and you can develop stress like a crack in the piece that way. You can also, with working copper super hot, okay, working it up around its forging temperatures, there's a lot of grain growth in the copper. And with that grain growth in the copper, you got to be real gentle.
You create
with it.
weaknesses.
You just can't go full Mongo mode and just
I got you.
hammer like crazy on it. You have to pull back. And a lot of people, when they try to work copper, they try to work it at its forging temperature or a little higher than its forging temperature, and then they start getting splits and crumbles and things like that.
Yeah.
And so that's like a common mistake. So it's a lot of people say, "Oh no, you work copper cold. That's how you work copper." Well, that's not entirely true. You can work copper hot, but you have to be mindful that it has very large grain structure when it's super hot. And so when you're working on, and that's part of where it gives up its malleability, right? Because it has very large grain structure in it. It's
right.
Not only just a soft material, but it has that very large grain structure. That's why when you smack it, it's like smacking a very runny Play-Doh
right.
around at really high heats. So yeah, that's just the main thing that I wanted to point out there, is it's not an either or for copper. It's just one of those things that you have to kind of know what you're doing. And you only know what you're doing with copper really by experience. You just have to get some and play with it and kind of mess with it. Say, okay, hey, I'm going to take this up to a yellow heat. Oh, nope, it's a puddle. No yellow heat for me. Don't do yellow heat, right? Or whatever. Or, oh, I'm going to take this to a red heat. Well, that forges nicely. And observe, observe what you're doing with it.
See, and I was really wondering about that, because the information that I read all said, forge it cold, heat it to anneal it, forge it cold, and I think primarily all I've seen you do is cold forging, and so I did not have any experience with or knowledge of hot forging copper. I mean, like, I didn't think you couldn't do it, but I thought maybe there's a reason people don't do it, and so thanks for bringing that up, because I didn't know.
Yeah. The main reason why people don't do it is they struggle with forging it hot. Just like with silica bronze or alumina bronze or things like that, if you're going to forge on those, they have a very narrow temperature band.
I learned that. In
them that you can hammer, right? Like, there's a very narrow temperature band where you can work the stuff.
I crumbled silica
hot,
bronze,
if you will.
I tried to forge a Moabo out of a bar of silica bronze, and I got the rough shape, and then it just crumbled.
And that probably just came from you working outside of that temperature range.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's not like titanium, which has a very narrow temperature range, and just when it gets outside of it, it says nope.
Yeah, it's more like baking
We're
clay.
just gonna stop moving right there.
Yeah. It'll move, just not the way you want it to.
Yeah. Also, another thing, I'd like to point this out about online research for metals, in the moving of metals. And this is something that maybe isn't even thought about that much by a lot of people when they're first getting into the craft and the trade. Those research publications and things like that, they are made for industry.
Yes.
They're not made for hand metal movers. Somebody who's going to stick this thing in a forge that has uncontrolled conditions and whale the snot out of it.
Right.
So a lot of all your steel stuff out there, right? Although it can be, some of that can be, reverse applicable. Sometimes with the, like, where they say, oh, like, again, like Sully, all the research he's coming up with, you work it cold, right? Well, that's because in industry they do. Whether they're, drop forging them, it's metal spinning, it's making roofing and gutters, it's forging pots and pans, through deep pressing operations, stuff like that. In industry, they do use it cold.
Yeah, it's to keep in mind. Yeah, it's what we do with it compared to what industry standards do with it is different, but same.
Yeah, same, but different processes will indicate what they're putting out there as far as information, is what I'm saying. right? Like a laboratory, no one has a spectron microscope sitting at home. Right.
A
No
decent
one's taken.
example a decent example of a similar situation there. A couple of years ago at Quad State, Uncle Buck was selling those bundles of quote unquote stress proof. That's the brand name of that half-inch hex stock that he had, and the spec sheet for it specifically said not forgeable. And I'm like, let's see. And I mean, like, it was completely forgeable. It was completely hardenable. I still have center punches and chisels made out of that stuff. That I just beat it right into shape. It moved like butter, and it hardened up very nice. Did not need annealing, even when you hardened it and you tried to do a snap test on it. It would kind of fold and have this wiry structure like you would expect wrought iron to have. It was really weird. So it reacted very weird. But whereas the spec sheet says it's not forgeable, for the general blacksmith out in the shop, it was completely forgeable, completely usable, and quite fun to use.
Yeah. So as an example of that's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. When they say not forgeable, they're meaning not forgeable in industry where they use drop forging. They use, seldom do they use open die. A lot of it's closed die forging, right? That they're saying that it, or I'm assuming they're mentioning it doesn't flow well into a mold, right? Because you can't form this thing into, boom, one hit. It doesn't flow well. So they might say it's not forgeable. They may say it's machine only.
Yeah, because they can't
this
forge
stock is only good for. Yeah, because they can't, in their environment of what they're doing in industry, it's not forgeable to them. But you, at your own forge, you might come up with a way where you can forge it. Just like you did. You stuck it in fire, you made chisels and punches, and voila, you're like, so what's the big deal here, right? Well, they don't have people, an army of little elves over there swinging hammers in forges anymore to say whether it was forgeable or not. No, they're going to have a machine,
I want an army of
that they could work with. And so that's where they develop this stuff, because those industries are paying for the research and development of these materials,
right?
Tool steels and materials. And so they're looking for specific qualities for their industry. And so that's where all these research and development papers are kind of coming out. And you can look it up on Google and,
it kind of
Google it
makes
all the
you
way
think.
up.
It kind of makes you think, Roy. And I wonder if this is even a viable idea. With the upsurge in blacksmithing, and you've mentioned it in the past as well, it is a bubble, it is a wave, but those who are true to it will stick with it. But with the upsurge and the what do you call it, the revival, the blacksmiths revival that we've been seeing over the past decade or so, all the research papers that, as you just said, is more for industry. Yeah, and there's really no set, call it a standard for the blacksmiths, the forging aspect of the different steels. It's, like you literally just went on about. Wouldn't it be a decent idea if a few people got together and wrote a blacksmith's book about this, like going through those standards and saying, well, this industry standard says it can't be forged, however you can't toss it in the forge, blah 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 blah. And I'm not a writer, I'm not a wordsmith or nothing, so somebody could flower it up with proper terminology, but basically take and write a compendium that takes that pre-research stuff, saying, oh, this isn't forgeable, or this is only machinable, or this is blah blah blah, and says, but if you're a blacksmith, you can do this. A lot of work, but I think it'd be helpful.
I don't think they care.
Oh, but we care.
Yeah.
Hey, Bill Corey.
So I think I think in order to publish a book like that, you would have to have maybe say some of the top names in blacksmithing today. I guess that prize themselves on metallurgy.
Mm-hmm.
You would have to have them author it for the most part. That way, there's facts and there's not a bunch of hocus pocus.
Yeah.
About the various things that are going on there.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is it's a broad topic, and I see this. I see this a lot. Every now and then I'll pop on Facebook and I'll kind of scum around some forums just to just see how the other half lives. Basically.
Right.
Just want to see what's going on, and it confirms my suspicions, and I leave quietly out the back door, usually. But where a lot of arguments and stuff, like just even about heat treat, right? Heat treat on stuff, and I don't want to go down that route too deep, but everybody locks it in as this is a very black and white thing. If you're using this material, it's yes or no. But again, you have to consider your source. Those industry papers are not made for the home hobbyist forger or even the professional forger at home. Those were not paid for or looked into for whether anything was possible with you quenching a blade and oil and then water, and then what does that do to it, right? That they don't deal with that. They just deal with industry.
They don't care about
right?
it.
and that's what's paid for those. So a lot of stuff that you get into with steels and things of that nature, or even in coppers, like what we're talking today, there's more of a gray area with a lot of it.
Yeah.
You can how do I say? You can fudge the numbers a bit one way or the other, right, to make something suit or work. Is it the best? Is it the most optimum for that premium quality steel or copper you're working with? Probably not. But it's never going to be, because you are not in a lab.
Exactly.
You're not in a lab coat. You don't have, $1 million worth of machinery sitting in front of you and taking test samples, right, of every step of the process. So you're never going to have it perfect like that. And so, the best thing I can tell everybody is, just keep in mind that when you're Google searching stuff and you're doing things like that, don't arm yourself with the internet and trade that for experience in the craft. So just be open, I guess I would say.
Yeah, and that also that little bit of info and tidbit of insight also may help with the armchair commentators in several groups, where it's like, you can tell who's got a working knowledge and who's got a book knowledge of a subject, because they're going by an industry standard that we don't use, so point blacksmiths.
Yeah, we're blacksmiths, not metallurgists.
Yeah. You tell us it can't be done, and we show you that it's done already.
Challenge accepted.
Test your might. I like, so you think you can blacksmith. Oh, my comedy's devolving.
No, it's not. It's always been that bad.
Yeah. Well, 24 people at least like my comedy.
I like your comedy, Yameth.
Thank you. Yeah, damn it, Jim, I'm a blacksmith, not a metallurgist. I love it. But yeah, that's copper, and there's tons more about it as well. It's that insight of the industry standard versus practical home use is actually an eye opener. So So that also kind of applies to, and we already touched on it, applies to the copper can be forge welded, apparently in an industry point of view. But in a home forge, we may not be set up for it, you know?
Yep.
But if I know Sully, he's going to try it. So...
Yeah. You know, I recommend anybody try it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, try it, because you never know when you're successful at something, and it might just be just plain dumb luck, or you might have figured something out, you know, that others haven't as of yet. You know, there's a low chance of that, but you know, you should at least try it, as long as it's not dangerous and it's not going to affect your health, which is probably a subject that should be talked about copper at some point in time. But as long as it's not going to affect your health or others, then go for it. See what happens.
With that sentiment right there, Roy, you bring up a good point, because I'm sure, you know, a lot of people will watch this and then go, I want to try playing with copper a bit. And I did notice that up in a picture of you working with copper, you were in like full freaking, you know, safety gear. If you can give a quick rundown of some, you know, without going into insane like whys and details, some precautions when working with copper, so that anybody who watches this gets to this point and goes, okay, so yeah, I got to be careful. You know. Yeah.
So, if you don't mind me going on a little bit of a story here.
You go right ahead.
Let's get a Roy rant, come on.
Yeah, so I started working copper quite a while ago. I won't get into the length of time. It's been a long time. And when I first started working with copper, I ground on it, I forged on it, I did everything kind of like steel, except with the one difference of, you know, I worked a lot of it cold at first, because I thought that's what you had to do with copper. Until I learned that, yeah, you can heat it up. You just have to be gentle with it. So I would work, so I'd heat it up, I'd quench it off, I'd work it cold, and I did all of this without any protective gear whatsoever on. No masks, no suits, nothing like that. And what I ended up developing is now I actually have a allergy to copper. So I build up enough I guess that you would say enough heavy metals, like toxicity, in me, that now I actually have an allergic reaction to copper. It's not all copper, like, you know, I mean, I can pick up copper and I'm kind of okay as long as I'm not holding it too long. But, you know, like, I have a allergic reaction now. And what that's happened from is in my earlier days of making copper work in vessels and bowls, I didn't even use respiratory equipment. So I just ground away on copper, and I had all them fine dust particles getting in my lungs. And you know, building up over time. And so so basically, copper, the oxides on copper turn to verdigris, and there's I'm not sure, I forget the name of the sickness. Maybe Sully knows this, or
I mean, if you're
Googles it. Whatever. There's a sickness that comes with working with copper, that you can get, like if you're inhaling copper.
For the sake of it, we'll call it copper sickness right now.
Yeah, we'll just call it copper sickness. But basically, it comes from the oxidization that's on the surface of the copper, not the copper itself, which is antimicrobial and stuff like that. It comes from the oxidization that happens on the surface of copper. That's why you don't see people making copper skillets that aren't lined with tin, because the surface oxides, if you put anything acidic, it eats those away. You consume it, it gets in your bloodstream, and you have what I have then. It's called, which is a copperidius. Yeah, there you go.
Like, I'm not even joking. Copper toxicity, or copperidius, is a type of metal poisoning caused by excess copper in the body. Copper is going to come from eating acidic foods cooked with uncoated copper cookware. An IUD, which I think is what Roy know, or from exposure to...
You beat me by 3 seconds there, Yamez.
Boom, boom! So...
researchers are at hand. Boom!
Yeah.
So
it's a real condition. It's a real thing. And so for me now, if I work with copper and I don't work with full protective gear on, I break out in hives. I'll break out in hives.
That might be it, Rob. That might be an accurate description.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm technically more metal than Rob.
Yeah. And he breaks out in hives like the full gamut. You know, his skin goes red. He gets that like beehive hairdo.
Now, if you're like you said, you could hold copper, but not for too long. I mean, do you get like if you're holding a piece of copper for too long, and I mean it's causing an obvious irritation, is that like a whole body or is it localized?
It's localized in that case. So like if I were to pick up a copper bar, I'll hold it with my bare hands. The oils and the salts and the acidics that are in your skin, right? You know, that we just naturally possess, that can, by the way, tarnish clean copper. If you stick your thumb to it, you'll leave a thumbprint. That sort of thing, that reacts, you know, so the moisture in your hands and whatever reacts with it, and then my hand will swell up, if you will. So if I'm holding it too long or I get a lot of dust on there, and then it'll break out itchy, and then it'll end up getting, I'll have hives in that local area.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So basically, don't be stupid. Don't do like I did. Wear a respirator if you're going to take and work, grind on copper.
Yeah.
I go as far as fully suiting up. Even when I work copper now, it's impossible. I don't care what anybody on the news media would say. It's impossible to keep the dust particles out of every single place. So it'll still get on my skin. And, you know, and I get like, the best way to explain it is almost like a burn, like a really bad sunburn. I guess it's just kind of like hives in that area where, you know, it's gotten to my face. So I do suit up, and it's better having it there than just the whole body.
Yeah.
When I do work with copper. But yeah, I built that up over time, and I really didn't know that I was doing it, because I started off when I worked with copper, I only worked with like maybe a couple pieces a year. Right? You're probably not going to see the effects for years when you do that.
Yeah.
But where I did it is I started putting out over 1,000 pieces of copper a year. And so in a very short time, I built up this toxicity to a very unhealthy degree. Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's a lot of copper. And during that time, I had an older gentleman. I did a demonstration where I went ahead and it was at Sofa. I did a demonstration where I was forging it. You know, I forged it without any respiration. I even ground it some right in the demonstration because people wanted to see me do torch colors and stuff on the bowl, and that I was working on for my demonstration. And an old guy, yeah, he about came unglued that I was doing that, and I didn't have a mask on or whatever. And he came over to me afterwards, and he came unglued on me. He's like, that is poisonous. You know, you need to be wearing masks. You know, you need to be wearing a respirator when you're working with that stuff. You know, it's going to get you someday. And you know what? That old dude was right.
It got you.
It came and got me.
And you didn't believe him until it did, right?
Exactly. I didn't believe him until he did. I mean, I took more precautions, but I was like, you know, I don't know. I mean, you know, I don't really feel anything. And it wasn't but a year later. Again, copper picked up, the copper production picked up, and I just accelerated what someone's dosages may have been over, say, a decade. I accelerated that into a year.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? And so that's my cautionary tale to anybody working with, working with copper, is the oxides that come off of the surface, the copper oxides that come off the surface, are poisonous to you. So you need to be careful. Now, if you're forging it, it's probably not a big deal because those oxides, they're collectivized, they're thick, if you will, right? They're heavy. They're not a fine dust.
Yeah.
I would still recommend maybe wearing a respirator when you're doing that. You may not have. You don't need to be all suited up. Obviously, you can't be in a Tyvek suit while you're around the forge. So you're. You have to. You have to split the difference there, right? I'd rather not be shrink wrapped.
Right.
Permanently. You know what I'm saying? So, but a respirator, I would say, would be a great idea for protecting your lungs against that exposure over time, especially if you're going to do a lot of it. And if you're going to do high finish work on copper, please, for the love of everything that's righteous in this world, wear a suit, cover yourself up, and protect those
now.
lungs.
Take the precautions now so you don't wind up with the problem later where you have, where it's absolutely mandatory, where, if you get it on you, it's causing an allergic reaction. If you prepare for it ahead of time, you won't ever get to where Roy's at.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Kind of
because it's a build-up process.
I need to build.
It builds in your system.
Cumulative.
Yeah, cumulative. Yep.
Yeah, I need to invest in some more better PPE.
I like James's little thing there, Roy. Don't hold up a sword outside. You ever seen the Highlander? There can be only one.
Yeah, I definitely need to. I don't even think I have particle masks in my shop. I just use these. Y'all don't see it in the videos, but when I'm grinding something, if I'm going to be at the grinder extensively working on hammers or polishing up plates or something like that, I'll pull this down and, better than nothing. But yeah, I definitely need to invest in some high quality PPE.
I should have listened to the old guy.
Yeah, and here's my chance to listen to the old guy, who's actually younger than me. Yes, Roy is younger than me. I know I look like a fresh-faced, toddler-like person, but
you wouldn't believe it, but Roy's like only 26. I mean,
right?
yeah, it's all that copperitis. Makes me look like I'm 55.
That young child is burning the candle at both ends. Get some sleep. Take a break, young child. It's like took his junior high picture and just yellowed the teeth and added some crow's feet.
That's not yellowing of the teeth. That's copper.
That's copper. Yeah, it's copper.
Yeah. So yeah, that's one of those things as far as safety. I mean, other than that, I mean, it's fine to work with, I mean, and again, for the most part, I think a lot of people won't ever come up, get anywhere close to that. I mean, copper's one of those things that it's very expensive to work with to begin with, especially right now. And, so you might get a bit of it and feel like you're forging, and want to forge on it, maybe sand it or whatever, down, shine it up. That sort of stuff isn't going to get you to the place where I'm at. But, the more you can put those precautions in place, the better off you'll be.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah,
because at that time I was doing copper, mirror finish, right? Mirror finish copper work. And again, no mask, no nothing, right? Just nothing. And a paper mask won't do it either. You need a respirator, a full-blown respirator.
I've always wanted to get like the full PPE. It's just you guys,
Roy.
Yeah.
Roy, do you have one of those like positive air respirator things? The full the you know what I'm talking about? The one that's got the little motor and blows the air. Or do you have a suction type one?
No, all I have is just the respirator that you guys see there in that picture there. I've never had I've never had one of those like VersaFlows or whatever. Wish.
I'd like to get one.
Wish.
Maybe one day.
Well, I mean, if I had Roy Adams money, I'd have one, but
Yeah.
Maybe if I went back to doing that kind of work full time,
Yeah, right.
I might have Roy Adams money. But
Right.
Roy Adams money currently is a little low.
Hey,
well,
you know,
but
that's-
and to be fair, in today's day and age, you probably don't need it as much as you would have back in the day.
Yeah.
What's that? A Papper
No,
system?
the VersaFlow type thing. I mean, you don't do as much copper work as you used to do. Seeing as how that
true.
is not your primary thing. I mean, like buying one now would be kind of like, yeah, you might use it twice a year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I do copper more than that, but it's one of those balances, right? Like, so once I really started having a lot of problems with that, I really backed off copper quite a bit, and only taking on like big work, like you see there in the photograph. I don't do small vessels anymore, or finicky things that I would do that way, or really custom stuff. So I do baptismal fonts and bird baths, things
tell
like
ya.
that. And so
One of the things
But-
that I want to get into with copper is using a mix of what you've taught me for copper bowls and such. And I know that we've had a few conversations off the books and whatnot about tips and tricks for both polishing and coloring copper. I saw a guy, an artist, it was a little clip I saw of him working with copper plate, and it was just beautiful the way he did it. He had like a polished copper plate on like a Lazy Susan, a metal Lazy Susan or something that he'd spin, and he'd have a torch, like a oxyacetylene or some sort of a welding torch, sitting there, and he'd just like barely touch it, move it, barely touch it, move it, and like boom, 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 boom. I'm like off camera, and it would like create like flower petals, and then he'd just do that around the whole thing in a design, and then like go over different spots a little heavier, and it would like kind of push the flow, and just made these awesome designs with the oxidization. And with you saying
flame
that-
painting.
yeah, yes, and with you talking about you were doing something similar, and a guy went off the rails about PPE. If I was going to be attempting that relatively soon. I really should pick up a respirator in order to work and play with that. So yeah,
Definitely. Now, just heating the surface of it, you're probably not going to have too much problems. But getting it to the point where you polish it, you will. So you'll definitely want to have a good respirator.
yeah,
on when you're doing that. But yeah, with the flame, like with the flame painting, people were asking about that and wanting to know a little bit. I think in the comment section, that is just playing with the surface oxidization layers. Yeah, and so what dictates that, obviously, the colors you came out with is the temperature of your flame and how long you hold it in spot for.
yeah,
And one key trick for everybody, if you're going to do this, because I get quite a few emails on this, is you have to build it up in layers. So if you just go in and you just start heating like on a mirror finish bowl or a plate or whatever you made, right, and you just start heating it until you get some colors running, those colors, as soon as you spray paint it, they'll disappear.
yeah,
Because that oxidization layer is not thick enough that when you coat it with a paint, that the light diffraction can bounce back off in those specific color range.
yeah.
So you have got to build up layers.
And that's by doing it.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, that's by doing it, cooling it, redoing it, cooling it, redoing it, cooling it. Right.
No, I mean, I'm going to say I tried that on a back in the day. I did some test bottle openers out of that copper coated ground rod, and it leaves, it leaves like a molecule layer thick layer of copper on the steel when you're done. And, trying different finishes or whatever. One of the finishes I tried was like heating it and getting those colors going. And then I did a bunch of tests and I hung them up here in the shop and just let them weather over time to see how different finishes affected the copper over time when exposed to the elements. And when I clear coated the one that because some of them were clear coated, some of them were left to oxidize naturally, et cetera, et cetera. And the one that I'd tried to put temper colors in and clear coated, they went away. And I was like, I wonder why that happened. I don't get it. That explains it.
They're still there,
Yep.
just not seen through the
Can't see them through the clear coat. I didn't know that. I mean, I just figured
Yep.
maybe I don't know. I was stumped. I was like, well, okay, that was weird. I won't do that again.
Yep, it has everything to do with light diffraction,
Yeah.
the way the light interacts with the surface oxides. So my suggestion, if you want to try that, if anybody wants to try it, heat the bowl, or I speak in bowl or vessel because that's what
Sure.
I've done with copper mostly. Heat the copper object in question up to the point where it turns brown. It has a brown oxide look to it. So it'll look kind of, it'll be a very dull. It's still copper, but it'll be very dull. You'll know when it's brown. You're like, oh, that's brown. It'll almost look like an old antique
yeah.
piece of, even bronze maybe, right? Like it's going to look brown. Then let it cool.
Don't
Okay.
quench it. Let it cool.
You don't have
right?
to let it cool to where it's room temperature or quench it off, but you want to let it cool to the point to where you can just barely touch it with the back of your knuckle. Okay? So maybe say 200 degrees or so. Enough to make you go ow, but it doesn't actually hurt you.
Yeah.
And then at that stage, if you come back in with your finer pencil flame torches, whether they be oxyacetylene, they be oxybutane, whatever you want to work, propylene, if you want to use propane, they all have a little different color
Good to
that
know.
they'll produce on the copper. And I use oxypropane. So you come in with your pencil flames then, and then you can create exactly what that guy was doing in the video, Yamas. That's flame painting. So,
Yeah.
yep. And then what you've done is you've built a good solid base oxide layer that you can then build on top of, and then your colors will stay.
Right. So
Yep.
yeah, basically creating the canvas instead of trying to do it on bare polish.
Yeah, the copper's still polished. It's still polished. It'll look duller just because it's not reflecting as much light at you. But when you put the colors in there, and then it's all finished up, at the end of the day, you put your clear coat on, that thing will have a lot of depth to it, and it'll look really beautiful.
Okay. Yeah. I'm trying to find. I'm gonna share an image of one of the things that you can do with it. It's very. You can get amazing. I'm just putting it in the right spot so I can find it.
Sprinkled on it, Forge. It's hot. Let's touch it. That's my method, and it hurts a bit.
Right.
Well, don't do as I say and don't do as I do.
Damn
Work smarter than Roy. That should be your bar of standards. Work smarter than Roy.
I can do this. It didn't save it as an image file. Arg. Yeah, this is this is something that I really want to kind of get into. So it's like, what is a JFIF file? That's ridiculous. All right, I'll just do this because I already have it set up. Oh, dang it. pushed the wrong button. Opening up DaVinci Resolve, my computer's going to go, no, too much information.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Oh,
Oh
no.
no.
Yes. There we go. Browser. Open the browser. And I suppose, yeah. Transition. I don't know why it's showing that screen. Not that browser.
So while Yamez is going down a rabbit hole there,
Yeah.
Roy, what if I may ask? Back in the day, what was kind of your first indication that you were having a problem with copper toxicity? That where you first went, wait, what's going on here? This isn't right.
Well, first was lungs, heavy breathing, having a hard time breathing quite a bit after working with copper. So, which is quite scary, to go through.
And you've never been a smoker, right?
Nope, never been a smoker, or anything like that. So, the best thing I'd say is probably the first indication is after a day of working with copper, without respiration or things like that, my throat would itch. It would almost have like an itchiness to like your, your uvula or esophagus kind of felt a little swollen.
I've had
a
that
little
before.
bit, and that was the first indicator there for me. And then as time progressed, I did a whole year where I put out 1,454 pieces of copper, and that was 1 year. And
Wow.
at the end of that year, I was having like major problems with breathing. Just like if I ran even a short bit, I could just be out of breath almost instantly. Just a 50 foot or so, right? If I got too excited. So that was a big issue in that. And then shortly after that, that's when I'd start breaking out with hives and big rashes everywhere. And it happened pretty quick after that point.
Well, but now was that ever like medically diagnosed, or did you just kind of figure it out and go, this is where I screwed up?
It was, I actually did go to a doctor, and they didn't really do much as far as tests. At the time, I was on government assistance, so I was just getting off government assistance at that point. Finally made enough money that I could, and when I did that, government assistance doctors, they don't care two hoots and a hanging basket about you. So they're just there to lick you, stick you, and make you go out their door as fast as possible. So, but when I went in there, they're like, so what have you been doing? And I say, well, the only thing I can think of is maybe it's copper that I've been working with. I'm an artist. I do a bunch of copper work. And then she's like, well, don't do that anymore. And then, basically brought up the copper, whatever you guys called it, the copperitis or
Copperitis.
copperitis or whatever. She brought that up, that could be possible cause for my symptoms. And I'm like, well, gee, thanks. That's what I thought it was to begin with, but
Yeah, I think that if you go to a doctor and you can tell them what's wrong with you, and then they just confirm it, they should either pay you or at the very least it should be free.
Yeah, it should.
Like, you're doing their job for me. So you go and like, I think I got gout. Yeah, you got gout. That'll be $20,000. I don't think so.
Yeah. You got to make them work for it, folks. You got to make them work for it.
Yeah.
Say, I don't know what's wrong with me. You figure it out.
But you just got to be aware that Dr. Google is going to always tell you it's cancer. I got a sore throat. Yep. Nope. Sorry, you got cancer.
Yeah. But if you guys,
so it was just it was a whole thing of figuring that out over time. It was just that year. It was like, man, I don't know what's going on. And so I went out and picked up a respirator then, which was harder than hell to breathe out of because I already was having breathing issues. And, I couldn't just stop working because that's how I made my family a living. So, and I started taking better care of myself then. And over time, the breathing stuff worked itself out, but I still have the rest of it.
Yeah, shoot, I'd never noticed that problem if it came across me. I walk out to the pickup and I get winded. I'm like, boy, I need to sit down and take a break.
Yeah. So I do have on the screen here the browser share of flame art painted bowl, or platter. I don't know. But yeah, I don't think you guys can see it in the Discord. So
No.
yeah, I downloaded the picture to post, and it was like a JPIF file. I'm like, that's not working. So they can see it at least, just to show that the beautiful colors you can get with copper painting. Yeah.
I'm just imagining it in my mind.
Yeah.
Oh, how familiar it probably looks.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. It's neat stuff. Very neat stuff. But yeah. Brain.
Rob.
Yeah,
Sorry,
I'm reading
I
the
read
chat.
Rob comment. He said, I need to get on Gov assistance. Lick ya, stick ya? Question mark. Exclamation point.
Sounds like a party. And as for the people asking in the chat about the piece that I was showing, nobody that we know, and as far as I know, nobody we know. It was just a random picture I found on the internet. So, no, it was not Jess, although it looks like something Jess would do. Just very cool. Yeah, but that's the kind of stuff that I found in looking up working with copper. I didn't know Roy did flame painting copper, and now I'm like, oh, because I wanted to be like, look, Roy, look what I learned how to do, and he'd be like, yeah, cool, awesome. I wouldn't expect him to be like, late to the party as usual. Been there, done that. Bought the T-shirt. Have the copyrighist approve it.
Like, oh, good for you, Yamez. Good for you.
Pat. Yeah. Like everything.
Hey, I try to be excited for other people's
You are
endeavors.
awesome about it, Roy. I'm just playing. Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, Roy can put a positive spin on everything.
Yeah. Like, look, Roy, I made this macaroni picture of you. Oh, it's beautiful. Roy is
It's
in
like, look how he formed the nose out of that one noodle right there. Man, somebody ought to give this guy an award.
a part.
Oh, you should totally end up in the gallery at Quad Stick.
Is that what happened? Like, oh yeah, that's gonna be a good piece. Oh yeah, entering that piece in the gallery, I legitimately felt like after I put it up and then looked at some of the other stuff, I'm like, yeah, I'm like a preschooler putting up macaroni art in the mat.
Oh,
I'm like,
I am so glad I didn't finish my piece in time. Oh, I'm so glad. I'm like, I went through there and I was like, boy, dodged the bullet there.
yeah.
Yeah. No, Yamez, there was some preschoolers in there that were putting up some art. Not you. You did good. You did good. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's one of those deals where I'll tell anybody this: if you ever, since I've put a lot of my work, I've exhibited a lot of my work in different places and won nothing. Don't take that personally, because it literally is in the eye of the beholder at that moment in time.
Mm-hmm.
And you never know, just like with sales, you never know what's going to be that hot item when you go to a show. What wasn't hot one year is hot the next year.
Yes.
You know, and what you never thought was going to fly off the table, you can't sell enough of. And so next year you make 20,000 of them, go back to the same show, and you sell not a one. And that's just how it is. So, you know, my suggestion, enter that piece in the show every year for
Unless
the next
it sells.
10. You know, unless it sells. And, you know, you never know. It may end up winning.
Yeah. Rob Huff actually just uploaded into the Discord a piece similar to what I was trying to share with the flame painting. So,
I was kind of hoping you were going to say he just uploaded a Medal of the Week intro.
I actually have an idea for next week's Medal of the Week.
No, I meant the musical intro thing is what I was talking about.
No, yeah. I don't think he's that quick. It'll probably take about 2
or 3 years.
2 or 3 years, and you know, and we got to discuss pricing because it's not something I would ask for free because that's actual work going into something like that. But absolutely, you know. Yeah, if you can see the Discord chat, you guys, this is similar to what I was trying to share. It literally all done with flame, and beautiful.
Yeah. So also, if you notice the leaf just above it, that the copper leaf with the forging colors.
Yeah.
The brown color I'm talking about is just past the colorful portion of
right here.
The copper there. You can see almost like a little shiny area where it's like black, but then it's kind of shiny.
Oh, right
that
here.
Spot.
Yeah.
Wow.
That spot, that's the brown you're looking for. Okay. If you go to black, that surface oxide, when you go to heat it with the torch, it'll pop off.
Okay.
So it has to be at that stage right before it goes to black. And then you can build on top of that with layers. And like the bowl that's just underneath, if you look around the edge, the very start of like the blooms, at the base of the blooms, how it's like
right
very
here.
copper looking.
Yeah.
Right? It's almost got like a rose copper look. That's the flame eating down through the oxide layers at first.
Okay.
And so it'll do that first, and then all of a sudden it'll flash to color. So it'll cut through, it'll expose the bare copper underneath, and then depending on however many seconds you leave it there to heat, and you pull your flame away, then it'll flush back to colors, and you'll get all the various colors. So like your purples and your reds and your some of those are all your first colors that you're going to get. Then you get into your blues. Well, your purples are a lot hotter. You get into your purples, you get into your blues. If you take it too far, you'll actually get into the golden yellows like you see in the center of the bowl.
Yeah.
Those are actually hotter.
If you're looking at this bowl, if you were doing this, you would probably start this from the center and work your way outwards, correct?
Yes, layers. That's why it looks layered, is because it's done in layers.
Okay.
Yeah, so you would bring in that base color first with the flame, and then you would come back over the top of that color. So chances are it was first brown, then he brought it up to a color where it was mostly golden, like what you're seeing here. So he worked the flame around to where it got golden in color, and then he let it chill for a sec, and then he came back out and started working on the blues, because if you look, the bushier portions of the flowers look like they're overlapping the blue. So the blue was next, and then he came out to the bushier portion of the flowers, and then he finished it off with just a quick little bop, just a quick torch hit to add in those little
the very edges,
the very copper looking things on the outside.
So you start in the center and layer towards the center.
Yep.
Yeah.
But you can't rush this. This takes a long time.
It
takes a lot of time to do.
The video that I watched, it was sped up, and afterwards he mentioned that, that one piece, it's like once you started it, you really can't. So you have to stick with it. But it literally, he says it took him all day to do it, and you know, like you watch the video sped up, and it's like a 20-minute video of him doing it, and at super speed, you know. So yeah, I can imagine that takes quite a bit of time.
Yeah, and actually, I'm looking over here just a little bit on the bottom left, almost in line with the corner, just up from the bottom left-hand corner of the bowl a little bit. He actually was starting to get a little bit of flaking in this piece.
You talking about right
so
here?
There's
or
right on the edge, the very edge. You can see it's got like a roughness to it. That was probably some of that under oxide starting to flake off the surface a little bit. So
it takes a master
so
eye
if that happens, you're hosed. You have to sand the whole thing back down and start over. You're not gonna be able to recover from that, unless you want a goofy spot on your bowl. But if you were trying to paint this, just like he did with this exact pattern, you would need, you would have to start over at that point if that fully flaked out.
Pull that up so that everybody can see it even better. Yeah. But yeah, I see that, and it's like I want to not so much do like a copy of this design, but add that kind of feature to any copper work that I do. Well, we've discussed me doing copper jellyfish. Excuse me.
I've got I don't know if the photos still around on the internet. It's been a while since we pulled that listing down, but I used to do a peacock bowl, and it had mainly just predominantly those blues in it, and so it looked like peacock feathers swirling to the center.
Yeah.
There's a lot of ways you can go with it, for sure. It's just, it's a lot of fun. It takes time, but you just don't want to be in a hurry. That's all.
No, I remember the peacock bowls.
Yep. Peacocks, you could do swirls. I've done scrolls with flame. Just made a whole bunch of little tiny squirrels with like a little pencil flame. And sometimes you can mix the different gases. So again, I was using oxypropane. That comes out at a certain heat, and it comes out with a certain amount of oxygen in it. You could also mix that. You change it up. You could add a little bit of oxyacetylene, which puts off a more intense heat in a smaller area. You can play around with that. Different torch tip sizes do different things.
Yeah.
There's a lot of room to move with it.
Yeah, thank you, Rob, for posting that picture. That gave us a great talking point, so that you guys weren't just imagining what I was talking about. Now,
thanks, Rob. That's a great picture.
Oh, yeah, forgot I had to transition so that I could be seen. Yeah, I think that's the peacock bowl, isn't it? That Rob just posted?
There's one, yep.
Yeah. Rob is a genius.
I had one that was all blues. I don't think I have that on the internet though. It was one I made custom for a customer, but it actually looked like peacock feathers.
Right.
Going to the center. There was like 6 peacock feathers and went down. Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rob, for posting that.
What's up, everybody who's just joining us? Yeah, and speaking of just joining us, I just looked at the clock. Holy moly. We went an hour over today.
Uh-oh. I'm sorry.
No, it's not a problem. I personally love when we get such a great, that's why when I was talking to Sully last week about copper being this week or earlier in the week, it was like, what's a good, copper has so many aspects to it, but beyond just forging it, and the different alloys and the different thises and thatses and everything else's, then you can go even further with copper and what you can do with it. It's such an amazing material to make with or to use as an art medium, and it's like I knew today was going to be a heavy day as far as conversational copper.
Yeah. Well, hopefully I didn't take over the whole stream
No,
with my nonsense.
Just like we had Sam in when we were discussing 5160 and shear steel and whatnot. If there is somebody in the crowd that knows exactly what we're talking about, has working knowledge of what we're discussing, and wants to jump in and impart on us knowledge, that's what this is about. It's a conversational knowledge gaining, education, edutainment show. You know, it's a community show, and if you have valuable information for the community, be a part of it.
Good. Well, thanks for having me, guys.
I absolutely love it. Yeah. Looks like we also had some people pop in last minute in the voice chat here saying hello to War Tree and Speargrass.
Hey guys.
G'day.
And Sully.
Hey there, gentlemen.
Yeah.
And I mean, and Roy, I mean, like we even kind of pregame that on these some of these topics. It's like, well, when we're going to be talking about this, oh, we need to see if we hey, send a message to so and so, see if they want to pop in because they're really good with this or that, and so we were kind of hoping you'd be able to make it today because your extensive knowledge of copper goes way beyond what any of us can look up on the internet.
Yeah,
So I truly appreciate you taking the time out of your day to stop in and participate. It really made for a heck of a presentation.
Yeah. And
Welcome, and again, thank you. And I also just like to make sure everybody knows, like I am not the end all be all either when it comes with the copper. I'm sure there's people way more experienced than I am in the field. I can only just give you from my point of view and what I've seen working with it under the hammer.
But that's the thing, like you have working experience with it. And even if, so as you say, there's people better than you, like, say there's Master Coppersmith, insert this is his real name, and then you got Roy down here, and then you got us down here, just giving us that little boost up to here to give us the right questions to ask to get us the whole community up to, that kind of, I was doing, you guys aren't watching me, I'm using my hands to motion levels, but yeah, is anything that helps, further somebody's learning process. You may have brought up some stuff that, I'm going to look deeper into this. I'm going to look deeper into that. I'm going to check into that more. I'm fascinated by this. Roy said this. Hey, I found this out. Hey, Roy, did you know this? And you can go, oh, dang, I didn't actually know that. And then the entirety of the community working together to increase knowledge and practicality of working with said materials, said medium.
Yeah.
So yeah, like just because you're not the expert doesn't mean that what you have to offer is not appreciated, valuable, and irreplaceable in this world.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. So it's like I struggle with that too because I'm such a beginner, and then it's like, when I'm talking to somebody and explaining to them a process that I've learned through trial and error, and it's like, man, who am I to teach anybody anything? Like, I suck at this. And then, but then I realize the people that I'm talking to and explaining are probably literally just getting into it, or just, at that super beginner level, and it's like, no matter what level you're at, if there's going to be somebody below you, that you can help boost up to further them.
Yeah, there's always going to be a certain level of teaching you can do.
Yeah, I mean, I can't teach advanced stuff, but I can sure teach somebody the stuff that I know how to do already.
Yep.
But with that, I mean, I don't think I could say thank you enough, to Roy for like Sully said, taking his time out of his day, actually getting up on Sunday and putting some clothes on so that he can sit in a voice chat with us. And I think he only said he's putting clothes on so that it didn't feel weird, but I still I'm not going to say what's in my head.
Who said I was clothed?
But
At this time, I would use a winky face in the Discord, but I'd get flagged again, so no winky face.
no, you can. I think it's just spamming them is what Hephaestus the bot got you for. but yeah, and at risk of going for another freaking hour, because I am seeing people having to duck out and stuff, but I do know that some people just jumped in. Yeah, I'd like to thank Roy again for coming in. I'd like to thank Sully for...
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
I'd like to thank Sully for setting up the Medal of the Week. This was an awesome one. And his friend Devi for helping him out with the research. And I'd like to thank, all the people that joined the voice chat, even if it was just for a moment, for popping in. And thank, everybody in the audience, in the community, for big shout out to Rob out there doing the hard work by posting things. And yeah, it's like, any last words from the people in the chat? You guys.
I was late.
But okay, but yeah, like they all went silent.
Oh, sorry, I'm talking and my freaking mic is off. You know how that goes.
Yeah.
I was just wondering if Adam over there at Speargrass Boards had anything to add on copper, or even War Tree Ironworks there. I mean, you guys are a little late to the party, but
I'm cool
do you have anything that might be constructive?
Well, I was on a little bit earlier, and I wasn't able to join the voice chat, but was listening to the YouTube, and Yum is saying it's particularly used about using copper rivets for stuff that's not structural. It looks really good against black steel. I've made a couple of sconces and stuff like that using copper rivets, and it has I'm sure as you guys have discussed, it has a much lower melting point. So when you stick in a gas forge, it can quickly turn to a puddle. But other than that, you guys have started me on a redsmithing rabbit hole, just from watching Roy, and there are coppersmith videos on YouTube that I've come across that are really interesting. It'd be interesting to get more cross pollination with the white and the redsmithing communities. We've got that through Roy, and thank the heavens for Roy being able to help us out there. But it'd be interesting to get a little bit more cross pollination with the other smithing communities.
Yeah, I'm all for that. But,
Absolutely.
Yeah. So with that, I mean, unless anybody has anything else to add, we can call that a show. And we can always touch back on, steels or metals of the weeks. I truly don't see this segment going anywhere. I say segment, but dang it, it's become such an interesting and awesome thing. It's kind of, it creates a topic for us to discuss each week, and I love it. And we still get the banter, we still get the jokes, and we still get to discuss everything, and we have a direction. So for that, this has been going very well, and thank you, Sully.
Yeah, you're welcome. Hey, everyone, a blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while.
Yeah. Now, as for next week's Medal of the Week, I know that we haven't really, we don't really do too many announcements of the next week's Medal of the Week, but I know Bill Wheel and several other people have mentioned rebar. And
Rebar.
Ooh.
that is a complicated metal of the week because
Yes, it is.
what
That
metal
is.
rebar. But I think I've heard mention that not all rebar is hot dog steel, as they call it, and that
Nope.
when you're dealing with, and I don't want to go too much into it because I'd like to let everybody know to, if it's okay with Sully, that we try and do rebar either next week or coming up, because
I'm good with rebar next week.
you good with rebar next week?
Sully,
Because there's
I was going to say,
Yep.
can you leave that to the week after? Because I'm actually an I used to work in rebar manufacturing, so I do know a little bit about it.
You know what?
Um,
With that information, I am absolutely certain that we can push rebar to not next week, but
Yep.
the week after, because
That's
rebar is
Christmas
a
week.
very important topic to starter blacksmiths, and it's very well controversial in the blacksmithing community. So
Yeah, no, we can definitely push it to Christmas week. Because I mean, we're still going to be doing a show, and yeah.
okay,
If
so
if Adam's got the wherewithal to impart some knowledge, yeah, we can wait.
So, looking at this, I just had to pull up. I don't know what days of what or what. Okay, so next Sunday, we should be. We'll be in church. We'll be discussing metals. It will probably be ductile iron because I will be celebrating the fact that I had just won a 142-pound swedge block from Roy, and then and then the 26th, the day after Christmas, we will all be sitting here on sugar highs and playing with our new toys and everything. And I hope you guys take a moment to break away from your presents to join us on the 26th to discuss rebar. And knowing that we're going to do that and planning for that, since it is such a cool topic for beginner smiths, spread the word. Let people know that we're going to be going into the nitty gritties about rebar and discussing the stuff about it. So I'm kind of excited that we can have that much forethought to give you guys something to put out in the community as advertisement that, hey, all you guys who say rebar sucks, get in here. We're going to talk about it. You know.
If we're going to do rebar on the 26th, got any ideas for the 19th?
I'd made the joke about ductile iron.
Yeah, no, let's not go there.
But yeah, don't know. You know, in the Discord chat, we have a Metal of the Week section. So if anybody has anything that they would like us to discuss on the 19th, go ahead and post it there. And you know, if a couple people post different metals, and we'll go by whichever one gets the most thumbs up emojis.
Yeah, that's a good resource there, because I mean, literally, I'm just throwing stuff against the wall and see if it sticks a lot of times, and I do utilize the Discord suggestions. It's like, oh, well, let's look into this, let's look into that, and they don't always stick. I mean, like, you know, we had a suggestion for Hardox, and I started researching it, and turns out it's such a proprietary steel that there's just nothing out there, and I'm like, yeah, I can do 2 minutes on Hardox. That's it. You know, so it's not always going to be a win-win, but yeah, by all means, if you've got something you wanna hear us discuss in length and in detail, throw it in the middle of the week, and it'll be taken into consideration. And I mean, it'll eventually get put on the schedule. I mean, as long as there is information available to be gleaned from it. You know, like I said, there is the occasional proprietary steel that. You know, I just, unless I worked at the company, I couldn't tell you squat. But anything else, I mean, yeah, if there's something you want to hear about, I mean, yeah, throw it in there, and I'll see what I can come up with, and collectively as a team, we'll see what we can come up with.
Okay. I know that I'm putting in suggestions in the chat right now so we don't forget them. But we have 3 suggestions right now. For next week, we've got Railroad Spikes from Rob Huff, we've got Aluminium from Speargrass Forge, and Eric brought up 1095. So that's 3 suggestions. Go vote.
And and they've all been on the table over the last few weeks.
Yeah.
Well, spikes have not, and that's another rabbit hole one there.
Yeah.
Oh God. Yeah.
Yeah. So, use Discord to vote on that. Do not vote on the guy licking the sword. Rob, I'm sorry. I'm just going to remove that for continuity. So, but yeah.
Don't vote on the guy doing what?
But Rob, Railroad Spikes is actually a decent selection, especially if we're doing rebar the next week, because of beginner steels accessible to people who are just getting started. It is a hot topic discussion piece, and would be an interesting foray into consolidated information that has been argued for years.
No, I could literally do a whole show on railroad spikes. I mean, yeah, I know you're joking, but I mean, that is such an item that is so blacksmith. It's unreal.
Yeah.
And boy, that is a rabbit hole for sure.
Yeah, Aaron, we did 5160 last week, and 52100 is so close to 5160. Metallurgically speaking, I suppose, as Sully said, we'll save 52100 bearing steel for another time.
Yeah, that's kind of because we did throw around 52100 for this week, and I was like, we just did 5160, and I mean we're talking, metallurgically speaking, they're so similar that we're gonna put 52100 a little further down the line to kind of spread it out, because we're trying to do variety from week to week and not have two things that are very close to the same.
Yeah, like
like last week was 5160, this week was copper, the week before was titanium. I mean, so we're going exotic stuff, normal stuff, exotic stuff, normal stuff, complicated stuff, easy stuff. We're just kind of trying to throw in extreme variation, not extreme, but variation from one week to the next. So yeah, that's kind of the plan for Metal of the Week, is we don't want to do like two things that are like the same or close to the same, like in successive weeks. Like I wouldn't do 1080 and 1095 in successive weeks. Because basically they're the same thing with at different points of carbon. So those would, in my mind, be like at the very least a month apart. So
yeah, I literally just pinned on your entire diatribe.
Okay.
Aluminium after copper would probably be along those lines of different but same. Separate that by a month or so.
Yeah, no, aluminum. I've got aluminum set for, I want to say probably, I'm kind of thinking like mid in January. So
sure. So
somewhere in that area, provided nothing new pops up, because much like titanium, aluminum is one of those things that because of the not propensity, what's the word I'm looking for? The plethora of alloys and the absolute uselessness of the alloy being an issue,
Yeah.
So
it's in a blacksmith's term, aluminium is aluminum, aluminum is aluminium. It's all one and the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with that little prelude for the next couple weeks, vote for next week's Railroad Spikes. We're going to etch out aluminum. Railroad Spikes 1095 automotive leaf spring, which I think falls into 5160, which we just did.
Automotive leaf spring was yes, that was 5160. That was the primary. Yeah.
Or a railroad track anvil shaped object. That would go into another segment that we had discussed and thought about doing.
That would be a Speargrass Forge segment right there.
Yes, a tool of the week kind of thing.
That's right.
Not right on.
Yeah, but
a couple of weeks ago we did cover anvils in general, but
did we?
That's but when it comes to specific tools of the month or whatever, because I'm only on every second week, and of course like tonight's show was very much focused on a big topic like copper. it's something that I plan to fit in as we can
Yeah.
for topics that are a bit smaller, because like say we do middle of the week on that metal that Sully was just talking about before, which is very proprietary. We can only talk about 2 minutes. This is something that the tool of the week is something that because it can help not so much fill but help broaden the scope of the discussions on weeks where not so much slow weeks, but weeks where the focus on the middle of the week is very specified and can't be expanded on as much.
Right.
Okay. Very true.
So with that, while I don't mind being in front of the camera for hours and hours on end, you guys know I can talk. You guys know that we as a group can talk.
Continuously to no end. For 5-6 hours.
Yeah. I feel, as much as I want to keep going, that I should let you guys get away, and get out to your shops and stuff.
Well, I'm already in my shop.
Yeah.
Yep. And honestly, I actually have to get out and light a fire, and I've got a piece that's been ordered that I really got to get to because it's got to be done by Christmas. And you know how I procrastinate, and it takes me a year to make anything. So
yeah, get to
Yeah,
it.
me too. I gotta finish up this chandelier I'm making.
Yeah. So fantastic. With the chandelier, consider, as has been discussed, using copper rivets to put it together, or copper collars to put it together, because that copper accenting to ironwork is beautiful.
I will probably be using copper or brass rivets, but I will definitely be using some of my copper clad.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, everybody. Thank you all. This is awesome. I love doing this show, and I love having people in the show with me. It warms the cockles of my heart. So, picked up 2 orders while lurking here. So, with that, guys, I'm going to go ahead and end it. Big round of applause to everybody who appreciated enough, or who joined in, and go in when you get to Roy's Christmas episode. Make sure you say Island Metal Forge sent me here. Let the world know that you're only there because I said to be there.
I'm so gonna do that just because.
Right. Heard about you from Island Metal Forge. How you doing?
Who's this schlub peddling his wares on YouTube? I don't know.
All right, you guys. Have a wonderful day. We'll talk. I'll see you guys on Wednesday, and we'll chat more on next Sunday. So, you guys have a wonderful day. Thank you all, and I'm gonna go.
Have a great Sunday, everybody.
You have a good one. I'm gonna get started on working. I need to get on the internet more so I know what's going on with people.
Yeah. And we're clear.